Welcome to the Seneca Resources team. Our strong reputation and long history in the industry are rooted in our core values of safety and environmental responsibility. Maintaining positive relationships with local landowners, government agencies, and others relies on all of us operating with those principles in mind every day. We know that most of you have received Safe Land, OSHA, or other training that covers these topics, but we wanted to take a minute to review them and emphasize their importance while working on our location. From your very first moment on site, we expect you to adhere to our safety policies and to uphold our commitment toward each other's health and safety, as well as our commitment to the environment. Seneca Resources provides and maintains a healthy and safe work environment. We follow sound operating practices and industry standards. We are committed to the well-being of all of our employees, contractors, and the public. And we ask that you share in our philosophy and unwavering commitment each and every day. Once again, we're glad to have you with us.
This is Stan. He'll be starting his new job as a roustabout at one of the region's Seneca Resources sites. Getting packed the night before, it becomes clear to him that preparation is key to a successful work situation. That's why Stan makes sure he wears clean, proper work clothes and shoes. He leaves any loose-fitting jewelry at home. He also packs food and beverages for his on-site meals that provide good nutrition and protein for energy. It goes without saying that there's no room for alcohol or illegal drugs in any work situation. Even for prescription drugs, Stan needs the okay from his medical provider that they will not impair his ability to perform work. Packing the truck for travel, Stan can double check to make sure he's packing the right tools and that they're all in good working order. This is Glenn. He's serving as Stan's mentor and will help prepare and guide Stan in learning his responsibilities and how to carry them out in a safe and environmentally responsible manner. Some of that means that there's no room for distractions, like pets or firearms. Many of Seneca Resources' working sites are located among the nation's most beautiful terrain. These areas are often surrounded by wildlife that would tempt the most casual outdoorsman. Our relationship with landowners and our neighbors require us to stay on site at all times and avoid the temptation of disturbing local plants and animals. This can even include something as simple as refraining from feeding bears in the area. One of the most important concepts Glenn needs to relate to Stan is the value and purpose behind Stop Work Authority. Stop Work Authority is a basic concept. It means that anyone, contractors, employees, even visitors, have the authority and, more importantly, the responsibility to stop any work that they believe is unsafe or could have an environmental impact. It doesn't matter where the situation is or how big or small the job is. One of the most important things Seneca workers do every day is look out for each other. The Stop Work Authority gives them the power to say, wait a minute, something's not right here. It's not a means of questioning anyone's work ethic or micromanaging the way someone does their job. For example, a worker might be doing a great job, focused on what they're doing, but there might be a problem in the area that they're not aware of. This is about safety, first and foremost, and everyone has that responsibility to do what's right. This sense of responsibility is critical to keeping the work site safe and is bigger than any one individual. Pulling on to the work site, Glenn makes sure that Stan drives carefully, with a particular focus on work vehicles moving about the site. There are also specific rules relating to on-site speeds and proper parking. Glenn introduces Stan to the site supervisor and a handful of other workers. Stan's first responsibility is to check in with the person in charge at his work location. Once he's done that, he'll attend safety sessions, like the one you're currently attending, to get the full picture of how things are done the Seneca Resources way. And there's quite a bit to cover. In addition to stop work authority, Stan needs to learn about the site's primary and secondary muster locations. Usually, those are at the entrance of the job site and at the opposite corner. Sometimes, the area's terrain calls for different choices. It's critical that Stan and everyone else know where to gather in case of an emergency. This is true not only on this location, but for every location Stan is going to go to. Site alarms also need to be reviewed. These can be visual, as well as sirens or horns, depending on the activity taking place at the time. It's important to be familiar with what each alarm looks or sounds like, and to know how to respond immediately and correctly. Any worker should check with their supervisor or the person in charge if they are unfamiliar with the site alarms. And of course, Stan needs to understand the site's Emergency Response Plan, or ERP. There is a general ERP that covers basic emergency response steps to be used by the person in charge, as well as emergency responders. Each site also has its own site-specific ERP, primarily because each site is unique. The site-specific ERP covers everything from emergency contact names and numbers and information on the nearest hospital, as well as nearby hazards to be aware of in the event an emergency occurs. And if there are ever any questions, the ERP is located at the site mailbox or at a kiosk at the entrance to the facility. But before heading to the safety meeting, Stan and Glenn take a brief smoking break, and like every other activity at the worksite, there are exceptions and restrictions to observe. There are designated smoking areas that must be respected in order to maintain site safety. It is also important to properly extinguish and dispose cigarette butts. Worksite cleanliness is everyone's job. Now let's talk about day-to-day work expectations. PPE, or personal protective equipment, is a must at all times and includes safety glasses, hard hat, steel-toe work boots, flame-resistant clothing, and any other PPE for specialized work or hazardous areas. If you're working in any elevated location, fall protection is a must. Remember, anything over 4 feet requires it. As mentioned earlier, it's important to have tools and work equipment in good working condition. Always use the appropriate tool for each and every job. Taking shortcuts only leads to additional hazards down the road that could impact you or anyone else on that site. Working in specific situations or conditions, including hot work and confined spaces, will require proper permits and training. All confined spaces are considered permit required. Any hot work performed within 75 feet of an ignition source requires a hot work permit. If you are performing these tasks, make sure that you meet these requirements. In addition, all workers should follow proper lockout, tag-out procedures when performing service on any piece of equipment that has any type of stored energy or the potential for it. If you're working with equipment rigging, make sure that all suspended loads have a tag line and that the equipment is inspected and rated for the load you're going to be lifting. And of course, any equipment operator must be properly trained and certified. Just like in the smoking area, everyone needs to stay on top of keeping the work areas safe. That's done by keeping the area clean and neat to avoid creating unnecessary hazards. Cell phones should only be used for business purposes, only if it won't cause a distraction, and only if it's used away from active working and vehicle traveling areas. And if someone is too busy concentrating on a phone call, they may not be aware of what's going on around them. Speaking of distractions, it's time to talk about horseplay. Here at the site, people work hard and work together with each other, sometimes for extended periods of time, and they get to know each other well. One of the dangers of familiarity is the possibility of taking procedures or situations for granted. And while the intentions may be simple, harmless fun, the danger of even a brief distraction can cause serious, if not deadly, consequences. While at work, it's important that we stay focused on the task at hand and save our distractions for off-the-clock and off-site activities. Stan's making great progress in getting acclimated to the work on site and to the intricacies of Seneca Resources procedures and practices. But there's certainly plenty to keep track of, especially when it comes to worksite incidents. Even if everyone really works at paying attention or being alert to their situations, even under the best circumstances, unexpected events can occur. That's why Seneca Resources want to make sure workers are up to speed and ready to respond correctly to any unwanted incidents. We've talked about the Emergency Response Plan, the ERP, and where you can find it in the mailbox or at a kiosk near the main gate. And site supervisors make sure to review the site alarms and muster locations. Seneca Resources expects all incidents to be reported. This may include spills, injuries, vehicle accidents, equipment failure during operation, and near misses. These should be reported immediately to your supervisor as well as the person in charge of the location. Seneca may also request a written follow-up report depending on the severity of the incident. And what if you see something that's not a problem yet, but you feel like it could be eventually? Is that what Stop Work Authority is about too? Absolutely. Equipment or work-related deficiencies not only put the environment at risk, but workers as well. Keeping your eyes and ears open to your surroundings and your coworkers improves safety for everyone. And remember, your coworkers are watching out for your safety too. Looks like Stan and Glenn have finished the week with a great deal of work accomplished, and Stan adding a number of new capabilities to his skill set. Let's take a moment to review the things that Stan has learned. Basic things like wearing the right clothes, including PPE like ear protection, eye protection, and fall protection, whatever is necessary for the job. He also learned the value of using the right tools for the right job and how they need to be in good working order. Stan learned about keeping his work area and the whole work site neat and organized, making sure items like tools or trash are where they belong. And if he takes a smoke break, he should only smoke in the designated area, and why he needs to stay on company property at all times. Most critically are the issues regarding safety, and how everything Stan does can impact himself, his coworkers, or the environment. He needs to follow all the right protocols for hot work, confined space, lockout, tagout, and any other type of work Stan is performing. And he needs to be alert and not distracted by things like cell phones or guys goofing off. Of course, that also means no alcohol, drugs, pets, explosives, or weapons on site. Common sense will lead Stan to keep an eye out for things that might be considered deficiencies and to do what he can to fix them or call them to the attention of someone who can. And if he witnesses some sort of dangerous or destructive event, he'll need to report incidents or spills, all of them, even near misses. And most importantly, Stan, just like everyone on site, has the power and the responsibility to stop any work that appears unsafe or could lead to unsafe circumstances. And if someone tells him to stop, he should stop. And if there is an incident, he needs to be ready to respond to the site alarms and head to a muster location when it's called for. While there's no such thing as a perfect work environment, Seneca Resources expects all its workers to do whatever it takes each and every day to put their well-being and that of their coworkers and the environment at the top of the priority list.
Well, Glenn and Stan sure have a good understanding of what it takes to work for Seneca Resources. We take safety and environmental responsibility very seriously at all of our job sites, and we need you to take it seriously as well. There's no room for carelessness or negligence at our facilities, and that's why we take this time to review our expectations of your responsibilities. If there are any questions or concerns about the things we reviewed today, don't hesitate to ask your Seneca representative, the person in charge, or your own supervisor. Not everyone is cut out for the challenges and attention to detail that the oil patch requires, but the personal satisfaction of a job well done and the continued safety and well-being of our employees and the environment are what drive us to do our best each and every day. Before we finish, I'd like to recite for you our safety pledge. I will do all of my work in the safest manner possible and ensure that my coworkers are doing the same. I will stop work whenever I believe that an unsafe condition exists, regardless of who is performing the work. I will take the time to correct all unsafe work conditions. I will make suggestions and recommendations to improve the safety of our work and our organization. I will ask questions when I don't know or don't understand any safety regulation or guideline. Thank you again for being a valuable part of Seneca Resources operations.